Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
All right, welcome to the Pan-African show. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabe, your speaker. I am your speaker for the next 1 hour, Dr. Wilton McDonald. How do you like that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
I am Kampala, for those of you. I don't know what time it is in Poland. Comrade Dr. McDonald.
It is 11:26 a.m. So
you are
11
hours behind us.
behind. Yes, correct.
Today we want to talk about. You have an interesting topic choice today: the cabbage babies, or the origins of the whites in the 80s. And then number 2, we discuss the Tartiaria and the lost black kingdoms, the the 1800s. So let's begin with the cabbage babies and the origins of the white in the 18s. What do you mean? What is this?
Well, there is just not much information, I know, and I hate to, pose that just out the gate because you've asked a direct question. And for your audience, I have purchased, a book, which there are books that are written on the topic and released only in the last 5 years. So, and the authors, they don't want to reveal themselves. They don't want to. I said I could show you the camera. I know the audience background, but they don't want to reveal themselves. So this is a book that's written, and the group is called Mind Unveiled, and we don't even know who these people are. They refer to themselves as Sol and Moon. S-O-L, Sol meaning sun, Sol and Moon, like sun and moon. That's it. They don't reveal. So they have come up with a number of postcards and primary sources. So if you are able to get this book, then you can see in this book would be primary sources, postcards, like literally postcards. Real life postcards used in the 1800s. So to answer the question, what it is, in the 1800s, there was thousands and thousands of these freaky postcards, and they showed white and what is termed Asian looking like Chinese looking babies, images being there as postcards, as marketing tools. I mean, real life photographs, even people sending themselves postcards. They were actually mailing these things out. They actually were sending it out. You could see that these are literal postcards with stamps on them and dates and places from Russia to France, the United Kingdom, USA. These were actually used. And if you have these materials coming out, then you know that there has to be some truth to the story as to the origins of whites would be limited, very limited, and our history is not correct. All those history of ancient Greece and of Rome and of all the ancient cities of Egypt, these were not white people. These were all melanated black people. And if you want to know what a Roman looks like, I keep saying to people, go to Cardiff, go to Wales. There is a huge display in the basement, and it shows what Romans looked like, with large noses, thick lips, black people. And that today, it's a wall that's over 1,000 years old. And it's there in Cardiff, Wales. It's cut in the stone for all time. And we know from experience, look at the Great Sphinx, look at the images around us. I have counted more than 1,000 images with noses and faces off and removed, from Algeria to Tunisia to Morocco to Carthage. I have visited so many sites, and even here in Poland, the castle of one of these men, that's the first rider, so that would be the first rider. His castle, Jersey's castle, today in Poland, there are 8 images, and the faces and the noses are removed from the images. And today, in his castle today, right here in Poland, they've removed the faces. So this is the kind of redacted stories that we're told, the history that is blighted, that is distorted, that's whitewashed. And that is the story that's presented. The Cabbage Patch story is a story of genetic engineering, of cloning, of mass production. And it borders on the story of Tartaria, because the reason why this happened is that they had to find a way to repopulate the world, but they did not repopulate the world in God's image. It was a blight, an attack, you say, on the Most High, because they wanted to create something and some people that would be different from creation. At first, I think it was that they needed people to help to get rid of the mud and demuck the cities, because apparently their way of life came to an end because mud floods. And these big cities were inundated with mud and destroyed or covered up. So they needed people to work and to reclaim those cities. So they were probably trying to attempt to achieve this, to create an underclass. But some way, some decision was made to make them a superclass amongst the rulers of the land, and whoever made a decision, how it was made, but obviously it was made, and again, contrary to the image of God, which we know has to be a melanated figure, because we are created not from snow. There's no reference in the Bible of being created as snow. We're created in the image of God from the ground, which is the natural color of the dirt, of the topsoil, is a dark brown color. Even in Poland, I can go outside now in my backyard. I can go in my garden, and in that garden is a typical color of the ground, which is dark brown in color.
That's interesting, man. That's interesting. There is a Pan-African context that Africans already had a complex scientific and spiritual understandings of human origins, rooted in the creation traditions and more importantly, supported by modern genetics, which confirms that humans actually originated from Africa. The 1800s were a time when Europe aggressively pushed race theories like scientific racism. Ironically, while their own folktales still included childish myths, such as cabbage-born babies. I don't know how this came into being, Dr. McDonald. How does somebody think that their baby is born from cabbage?
It's a metaphor, obviously, a metaphor in that, a vegetable grows in a garden in a patch. And, I didn't like this cover. I didn't make it up. I didn't create it, but the people who designed and reported the story have shown these babies all in a cabbage patch. So if the nature of the artificial womb looked like a cabbage, then, that idea was birthed and born. I was not there in the 1800s, but I could just imagine that they used an analogy and they said, well, okay, we need to create something that we describe what was happening. And they had incubators. They had these birthing chambers. Perhaps it looked and resembled a cabbage head or so. Whatever chamber was used to create, but obviously they were doing this themselves back in the 1800s, and they had the technology to do it. We are sitting back and thinking, oh no, they were just backward. Remember, if you think to Tartaria, if you think about an advanced world that existed from even the 1700s and then came to an end because of the mud floods and, act of God. And perhaps God was just like, you guys are deviating. I'm going to send something not to destroy the whole world. God promised not to destroy the world by water, but these floods, these mud floods, were done to trap and bury the cities and slow their progress, whatever they were doing, slow it down. And they had to come, but they had advanced world. They had the technology of free energy and electricity and cars and moving sidewalks. So to create and clone, this technology was there. So, they had it. So if you focus on, look at Tartaria right before this sort of reset, the global reset happened in the 1800s. They had that technology and they were advanced. It wasn't just a sudden poof, like mankind just grew a brain. And that's what we were laboring on these false assumptions that mankind was sleeping and not even progressing. And then poof, Renaissance happened. Poof, the industrial age and revolution happened, and man just woke up with 100 brains and 1 billion brain cells just created, poof, and it happened like that. No big bang, no craziness. This was gradual. We learned and have accumulated knowledge over many, many millennia and centuries. And so this was a world that came to some end, because, they strayed, they were dabbling in black magic, whatever they were doing to themselves. God slowed them down, didn't destroy them, but slowed them down. And then they came with this hatch plan. We're going to progress a reset. We're going to launch this. So if you look at the primary sources, because I'm giving you primary sources, these are actual cards. These are statements and words by people who wrote about cabbage babies. They were sending each other postcards. They were like, hey, I have a cute baby, so nice and fair and white. And this book, again, is a godsend, because this shows literal documents, right? Actual documents that were sent and used, and people got a hold. I had no clue about any of this stuff, but it's actually here, and you can purchase this book. I purchased it for about $50, and it came by Amazon, and it is available right now. And they don't want to reveal themselves. Who knows? There could be some Freemason, freaky deaky kids that decide to have a conscience and write what their crazy grandfathers were doing. Because again, it's Masonic, it's demonic. This is not of God. And they came out, they call themselves Mind Unveiled. Whatever it means. They refer to themselves as Sol and Mon, sun and moon. And there's some kind of freaky sort of logos. They call themselves, if I display, these are their logos of what they call themselves: sun and moon, sol and moon. And those, they've compiled this information, these cards that have been missing. I had no clue about the cards. And so if you look, Andrew, look at the primary evidence. Who else is using primary evidence? My favorite mentor is Dr. Marie Charles. She has written 22 books, and she lives in the UK. Her mother is Irish, and her father is St. Lucian. She has come up with 22 books. And again, Dr. Marie Charles has been writing about our history. And I would like to show you again some of her books. She has written about Black history and about things that you should be taught and you're not taught in school. So Dr. Marie Charles has written about it. If you can see some of her books.
Very interesting history, man.
Yeah, but as I said, to the point is that
this information is not taught in our schools, my brother.
Okay, I just wanted to show you, so I know
that's okay. But what I'm telling you is that this history is not taught in our African schools.
Okay, you could see a photo of what she looks like.
Yeah.
And she has 20 books, and she's written about European Black men, Black people, real Black people from Europe. And she has sources, she has relics, she has trinkets, brooches, earrings, and it echoes Africa. it look at some of these, and you must, your readers, look at it, that they are Yoruba, Igbo, they're different patterns. These are African, but they're European. These are real European logos. So if you look at the primary sources, Andrew, you'll be able to tell that those sources that they tell you, Magna Carta, where did it come from? 1215, we don't know. Where did the Bayeux Tapestry come from? France, showing the Norman conquest in white Britannia and England. We don't know. Where did those primary sources come from? And if you test the stories of whether it be Odin, Vikings, King Arthur, all of these stories are fables and tales. So we have to go to the right sources, and that's the problem. We rely on fake sources for the confirmation of our history, when we should be going to real primary sources, like what this woman, Dr. Marie Charles, are writing, and this other spooky group that came out with cabbage babies. And these are real sources coming out in the last 5 years. This knowledge has not been released, only in the last 5 years coming out.
Very interesting information, Comrade McDonald. Why is this information hidden from Africans? Because it looks like that information is very much alive and kept, but then they hid it from us. What was the reason?
They hid this truth because they needed Africa to be poor. They need Africa to be, as one economist say, to be dirt poor and to be feeding the world. Africa is needed, and its treasures are needed so that people can enjoy higher standards of living. And it's racist. It's disgusting, because Africa is the backbone, is the motherland, is the fatherland and motherland of the world. And people should be given value for their time, their treasure, their service, their resources. So they take the raw materials from Africa, they develop it someplace else, and then they bring it back into Africa and charge you a very exorbitant high price. And that's what happens time and time again. And they feel sorry and give a little bit of aid, when the aid is not even a fraction, not even a pittance compared to the wealth that they extract from Africa. So it is a racist system that feeds Europe, feeds the West, and now is, quite frankly, bankrupt. The West has no real resources, and now they are looking to come into Africa and, as they say, recolonize Africa. So they keep the information from you, because if Africa knew about these stories, you would not, like what Tartiaria is doing, you would not entertain these wicked deals that are one-sided. You would not allow them to rape and pillage and take your resources and give you nothing. You would not allow, because you'd say, hey, hold on, why should we do that when you're claiming that you have the right to all this knowledge and information? It's our knowledge, it's our information, it's our technology that you have stolen and taken over, and then you claim, well, we invented this, we went to the moon, we invented everything. You are backward. And in the words of some of these people who talk and say, oh, we as blacks, we just came down from the trees a few years ago, so we should be grateful. And it all stems with, look at Jesus. Jesus is white, so our God is white, and you came down from the trees a few years ago, so you need to honor us, give us everything, because we are your fathers. So they're telling us that they are the fathers, because we are so backward. And this is why they put the timeline so far along. Oh, Africa was a motherland, but it happened 100 million years ago. It happened 100,000 years ago. And that's a lie. It actually happened literally 1,000 years, 500 years ago. All these migrations from Africa, the pyramids, everybody seems to be clear, seems to be complete. This is what the narrative is, and it's all false. We know the people who built the pyramids and everything else. We know the Romans were black, the Egyptians were black, everybody was black. If that truth comes out, they could no longer enslave Africa. But they enslave Africa because they put the white Jesus out there, that our God is white. They also put the fact that they developed everything and that
Actually, McDonald, they have told everybody that God is white, Jesus is white, Satan is black. When you do something wrong, they put you in a black book. If a Satan spot is killing people, everybody if a Satan road or road spot is killing people, that one becomes a black spot. So everything bad is black, everything good is white. When we go to African schools, they are teaching our children that Satan is black, Jesus is white. But we all know that mankind started from Egypt, the Kemets, the ancient Egypt, and Egypt is in Africa.
Yes.
So the mankind, the origin of man came from the black power in Egypt. So after creating them, now they say, we, their fathers, we are Satans. Them, the offsprings are okay.
This is the lie that is told. And if you just look at the story of the cabbage babies,
and themselves have told you that Jesus was born in Nazareth, Egypt. So somebody was born in Egypt, Nazareth, but he's white. He's white, he's not black, but he was born here.
It is a fanciful and false story. It is what they indoctrinate. But you know, it's catching up with them. You ever heard the expression, the chickens are coming home to roost?
Yeah.
Well, this is where they're catching up. They notice that with the influx of migrants, they are already talking about it. Elon Musk and even Trump is saying the number of whites will almost disappear in the next 50 years. So it's catching up that the number of whites
will collapse in the next 50 years.
They're not producing. The only reason why they were producing so much is because of the cabbage baby machines. I mean, if you look at the history, they were like, well, one woman in Ireland had 15 kids and one woman in Scotland had 20 kids. I mean, they were always lying about the stats. They're always lying about it. And they're saying, oh, well, big families because they were making, but now because of genetics and the controls and stuff, they can't just outwardly make people. Perhaps they're still doing it today. You know, you never know about, they're still doing it in hiding, but not to the scale, not to that level that they were actually producing these people. We have a world that is mostly black. We're mostly melanated people, and we're beautiful in our color. Again, use the term black, but we're melanated people created in God's image. We need to reclaim our history, because by reclaiming our history, we then will be able to change our economic position. We will be able to alter this economic position by demanding our fair share. We can't demand anything if we still believe in the white gene that our rulers and colonizers were white, when the colonizers were really black people. All these colonizers, these men here would be colonizers, and they are all from Poland, Germany, Poland, Sweden. All these men in my background, they are European nobles and kings. So these men being black, how can you say that the whites even existed? They did not exist in the 1700s. There is no power over swaying, well, you need to give us our land because of the people in South Africa. Why were you there? You were sent there from the cabbage baby machines. And I say that without apology. You were sent to South Africa to rule and govern, because South Africa has a lot of wealth and riches and treasures and minerals. So you were sent. You were not coming from Germany or Netherlands or UK. You are not native to Europe. Europe was a black place. So if you understand the fact that there is no history, there's no legitimacy, there's no reason for ownership and claim, the whole story, the whole argument falls away. The whole economic power and narrative, shifts, because this is not a legitimate, entry into Africa. Whites have come to South Africa, they've come to Australia, they've come to New Zealand, but they're not native. But where did they come from? They didn't come from Europe because Europe was black. They came from a baby making machine. So if you talk about this, that they were sent by whatever powers that be, I don't know, the global Freemasons, decide to send them and have them on a mission to control, then that's their history. We have to understand the story of this, because this will liberate us, and we will then demand our land back. The people of South Africa need to have their lands back. They need to have it back, because this is an illegitimate, illegal usurpation. It's an illegal occupancy, a theft, one that's premised on falsehoods and lies and deception. So call it for what it is. There's no, so from the white Jesus to the whites being having a history. And again, I'm not trying to demonize her. My own wife is a white woman. That's who I've chosen, and that's the mother of my kids. But it does not remove the fact that she is not European. She may be Polish for now, but she's not European. Europe was a place that looks like this. We need to understand that clearly, that Europe was very much a black place. Melanated black.
Fantastic. Actually, when you talk about South Africa is, I think it's even still a troublesome history. Recently, the South African government, or the people, the black people, the owners of the land, decided to go to parliament to say that, look, 114 years ago, you came here, invaded us, killed our people, my people, raped our children, and took over our land. But look, 114 years later, part of that loot, you have actually not utilized it. You have not used all that land that you stole from us. So we, the natives of South Africa, some of us don't have even where to grow our food for eating, consumption at home. So they said, we are going to parliament to ask that you appropriate land appropriation. Now, Donald Trump is accusing South Africa of practicing white segregation, that the blacks are segregating whites in South Africa. But hey, remember, Comrade McDonald, there is a place in South Africa where up to now, blacks are not supposed to live there. It's a place for whites only. But there is no place in South Africa or in Africa. There is no place actually in Africa where a white man is denied entry. But there is a place in South Africa where South Africans, native South Africans, are not supposed to step a foot there. But Trump is accusing South Africans of white segregation.
This whole thing of apartheid, of segregation, I thought that it was just on racism and placism and Zionism, because we know that the root of it coming from how those Jews are labeled, how they are branded and being Zionists, because they're not the real Hebrew, they're not the real people of God. I mean, they're not even following, most of them, they're the secular Jews. They don't even follow the Sabbath or anything. But they're not people of God. They're not the Hebrews. So when you look at this these things, they're vile. They have no basis. And if you probe and ask the question, how did you come about with this? How did apartheid come about? Who decided, and what was the basis that you decide to take this land? Just look back in time. Go back over 100 years ago and go back. I know the Berlin Conference was really major in just dividing up the world, and go back to the Berlin Conference, but just go back in time to the 1800s. How did you get this land and these rights? How did you get the land and the rights? And what basis did you use? That you're coming in as the colonizer, right? You're coming in as a colonizer, but these colonizers were Black people. So who sent the whites over to parts of Africa, to South Africa, to Australia, to New Zealand, and those places? How did they get there? And on what basis did they come? And who decided that what they must get? And those are some important questions that need to be asked, because I don't have the answers for them. But for Native Africans, you need to ask that question. Who was the person who set it all in motion? Because we just guess that it's the powerful white Europe that came because they perfected. See, that's the false hood and premise. They perfected all the technology that the world has seen. They created the airplane, they created the cars, they created everything that we enjoy today, all technology. No, what we are enjoying today is old Black Tartarian technology that has just been refined. So they didn't create anything, they didn't invent anything, and we give a free pass to a white Europe and in the white Jesus and say, this is a God, this is your God and master, and this is Europe, which is white, and you need to bow down, serve, and give all your possessions over, because these are our rulers, these are our leaders, and you must respect your leaders. Just like saying today, Africa needs to be respected because we are your fathers. And Africa rightfully can make that claim that we are the world's, and Africa is the world's fathers and mothers. But Europe doesn't have that claim. Anyone in Europe, like my ancestors, those who went to Scotland, because we're McDonald's, we left Africa somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500 years ago. So we left Africa more than 1,000 years ago. We lived in Scotland and the UK, which was a Black place. And it's very apparent now with all the migration. That's why I said the fear is that within 50 years, whites will become a minority of people anywhere around in the world, because everything is reverting to the mean. You have a thing in math called reversion to the mean, the reverting to the mean, to the law of the averages, because the planet is so vast and melanated already. And it asks the questions then, how did these people come about if now we are turning Black, and we are turning more brown, and we are turning, and we are changing as a people, as a society, and white then becomes the minority, which has always been the case. But in some countries, like in Europe and in America, they clearly will become the minority. Then it's very apparent that something is wrong. How come we are reverting to this color? And what color were we before? These paintings it's no surprise that all of this is timely. It's timely because the numbers don't make sense anymore. The numbers of the total whites today, which is barely 500 million, because there are a lot of mixed race people, fair skin. They're not exactly white. They're not white. They're not Black, but they're fair. And so they're not considered white. Yet you see some people regard them as white. Hispanic people, the Middle East. There are a lot of people that are mixed. And so if you look at the whites, they're 500 million. So their numbers will continue to decrease. And then the world, we're changing. We're getting into a more brown color, darker color, and melanated planet. And that's where we're moving. And the focus now is Africa. Everyone wants to come into Africa, but on what basis? What pretense? Knowing that this is the history, this is to be clear, because otherwise you're going to be in the same situation that you're going to just welcome and give handouts and accept people's lies in order to occupy places in Africa. The South African model is foul. There's no basis to maintain it, and I don't understand how they've gotten away with it for so long. because they are claiming what? How did they get there? How and where did the whites come from? The whites in South Africa have no claim to Europe. They have no claim to Africa, yet they're literally given a free pass and given assets, given mines, given land, when there's no history. We suppose that Europe was white. False. We suppose that Jesus and Christ was white. False. When all those things are false, then you know what? We come back to ourselves and say, how did we give it away? We need to take it back because it was illegally taken. It was usurped. We need to take it back, and that's where the position that Africa and the world is in. You need to reclaim what was taken. So the truth, as I said, the truth will set you free, and that is true today. The truth will set you free. We need to act on the truth. This is truth. Or just ask them question. Like, where are you from? You're from the UK? Okay, what town? Let's follow the lie. What town? Oh, from Glasgow. Okay, what are the people in Glasgow? Which part of Glasgow? Who was your great-grandfather? Who was your great-great-grandfather? Just go back. I have had this so many times in my family tree. And you know what? When you look at the White's family tree, it almost never goes back before 1800s. It always stops. And I always ask the question, go back further. Why don't you go back further? And there's always a question. Even the McDonalds, they claim, well, we are McDonald. We are the biggest tribe and clan of Scotland. Well, why can't you go back further? You have the records. You are the kings and queens of the universe. And I'm just being a bit facetious and playing into it, but you are the masters of the universe. You should have all the records from here.
Are you being sarcastic? You're being sarcastic, Mr.
Yeah. I clearly am, because they have all the records. And if you press them on it, they cannot go back before. Some of them can, but their DNA would be black. There are quite a few whites today that they have what called black DNA. That means they may look white, but they have black DNA haplogroups. That means they're ultimately black people. And ironically, those are the people who are still ruling the planet. The people who are ruling the planet, the real rulers, are black people still, but they just don't look black. They appear white.
Fantastic. Now, McDonald, our last topic is the Tartiaria. The Tartaria. Tartaria is a modern internet theory claiming there was a forgotten global empire erased from history. Historically, Tartaria simply referred to a large region in Central Asia used on all the European maps, not an advanced empire. But many Pan-African thinkers have adopted some ideas around hidden or suppressed histories to explore how colonial powers erased African contribution. While the little Tartarian empire is not supported by real historical evidence, the idea of erased civilizations is absolutely real, especially in Africa. Examples of African civilizations that were downplayed or hidden by colonial writers include the following. Number one is the Mali Empire, with the wealthiest man called Mansa Musa. The Songhai Empire, Great Zimbabwe, Benin Kingdom, Master Bronze Casters, Nubia, or the Kush, older than actually much of the ancient Egypt. Aksumite Empire, the Aksumite Empire, this one from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and a global power. Congo Kingdom, the Kanem Bonu, the Mosi, or the Asante, the Homi, and others. European colonial historians often minimized black technological achievements, attributed African monuments to lost tribes or outsiders. They erased black rulers from maps and narratives, destroyed records during conquest. This historical suppression explains why modern people easily believe in lost civilizations in Africa's case, the erasure was deliberate.
Yes,
Let me hear
certainly.
you.
Certainly, Andrew. Again, we get a sense that mankind just woke up. We woke up at different points. We woke up in the 1500s and the Renaissance. We woke up in the 1800s. And we just woke up because we're sleeping and just had a huge brain. I don't know, something we drank the night before, but we just had a huge brain and had this discovery. Knowledge is passed on and passed on evenly. So the society that existed before this so-called industrial age and revolution in the 1800s, this is termed Tartaria. There are buildings that there were docking stations for airships. They had free travel. They had roaming sidewalks, which are electronic sidewalks. People didn't have, like you have at the airport, you have these speed walks and you just stay on it and it's just take you from one place to the next. You had cars, you had other motorized inventions, motorbikes and mopeds. People had this abundant energy and they had this in place. So this is the lost history. And this is why you have these churches and these lighthouses with these pinnacles and steeples, and people don't know why we have these huge, massive buildings. Why? Because that's the way they had to have sufficient height, and they were charging these ships as they passed back and forth. So that the knowledge of this advancement of electricity, we just can only guess. We can't even imagine, but the buildings and the structures and all that was in place. And so the 1800s was just trying to discover some of that. Tesla was not one person. Tesla was a combination of people, ideas borrowed here and there, and it was trying to, call this ancient way of life. So we have been duped. This is one way that we have been duped into believing that this industrial age came from just a few persons, notably like a man like Tesla, and how he was such a genius. And you had, the Da Vinci and all these guys who were inventors, and they made things, and they were Edison. He of course came up with the light bulb, and everybody, and they know that, well, he didn't invent anything. He actually stole, patents from workers, but it had to come from a source. So we have completely distorted view of history. And if we look, these topics are related. You mentioned cabbage babies, and I spoke about that, and Tartaria. To understand one, you must understand the other. To understand how the babies were able to be born and into these labs, you need to understand the technology that existed before in order to, and the downfall of that society that resulted in the need to create these babies. So they're interlinked. They're totally linked. To understand one concept, you have to understand the other. And there's missing information on Tartaria. There are groups that talk about it still, but a lot of the buildings were destroyed. Just like a lot of these postcards were hidden. These postcards that I have in the book was just made available last 2 years. No one saw them, or they were kept in secret files and they were not revealed, because this is information that would destroy the lives, the foundation of white supremacy. And that's what it is. It is white supremacy. It is a need to elevate one race above all others, above Asian, above the Indians, the Chinese, the blacks, and to elevate so that they run and control the world. And that's what's so clear and apparent today. So we need to research more, and there's more information coming out every day. In fact, I am a part of 2 groups, and their mission is to share knowledge with the public on Tartaria and what it looked like. The old paintings, the lights, the city of lights. It was just beautiful to even behold. And of course, you had a lot of the imagery and iconography that was black. You had faces, and they have to destroy that because they could not have any black features in their new world. You couldn't have a reference to a black monument or black face. So a lot of these buildings were deliberately destroyed to conceal the technology and conceal the fact that they would have monuments on the buildings, monuments and images that were just reflecting a black history, a black culture. So instead, they destroyed and burnt. And a lot of the world, you figure World War I and II. Look at the sites. Look at the sites that they destroyed. Look at Warsaw, Poland Warsaw was almost destroyed fully, but they had a lot of Tartarian buildings here, right here in Warsaw. So you look at World War I and II. If you look at their sites, this will give you a clue as to where Tartarian buildings were once in their glory, and now no more because they said, "Oh, war claimed them," and they were bombed to bits because they're casualties of war. Well, what I would do is share my stories of depictions and any paintings. I am coming out with a separate book. I'm coming out with an electronic video and book, and I will share some images, not just of the cabbage stories, but of what the Tartaria, bits of it looked like. But it was really, truly amazing cities to live in. And I told you, they had to destroy it because they could not have something that would eclipse the world that they were building. And these buildings had images of black people, and that had to go. That had to go. So they destroyed a lot of those buildings. So more to come. I will search and find some of these. I have people who do this kind of work and delve in the art. And whatever I get, I do share openly on Facebook, so people could go to Facebook and find materials. But I will, for the next showing, and I will bring some new materials and images with me of how some cities were operating. But it was beautiful, beautiful. They call them cities of light because they had a huge amount of electricity. They didn't have to pay for electricity bill. They found a way to harness energy from the air, from the atmosphere, and you could actually do it. Even today, they're figuring out ways that you can actually create electricity from just the air alone, and that's what they were doing. So these cities, they had glowing sidewalks. They had such beauty at night. It's something to behold. It just, to me, it was just out of this world. Yeah. Okay, so I said for the next show, I'll definitely. Yeah.
Hold it up there. Thank you so much, my elder brother, Dr. Prince McDonald Wilton from Poland. Maybe before we go, what has caught your attention this week in an African perspective? We've had Trump the other day. I don't know whether you are aware in Poland that Trump the other day signed a peace agreement on behalf of the Congolese and the warring faction M23. I don't know how you look at that, whether really Trump is about creating peace in Congo, the richest country in the world in terms of mineral, and America is interested in those minerals. I don't know whether you believe that Trump was actually serious, looking for peace and trying to create peace for those people. There's been a coup attempt in Benin. There was one in Guinea-Bissau. I don't know how your world in African perspective has been over there. What has caught your attention?
Well, I was just in Nigeria about a week ago, so I was worried that the threat of bombing, I would not be safe. I didn't see any unrest. I mean, I know they mentioned about killing Christians, and had a safe trip. I had no problems. But my concern was the threats. So you mentioned about what Trump is doing as to relate to other places in Africa. And he did threaten military action against Nigeria. And so it comes down to the resources. Anything with the West comes down to the resources because they're running low. They are flailing. The word is flailing, like a drowning person trying to take under anyone and grasp a hold of anything to stay afloat, to fund their excess, to fund their, their glit and glamour and opulent lifestyles. And Africa should stand up and say, sorry, we're not for sale.
Dr. McDonald Wilton, I want to thank you so much for your time. And we've made this a weekly show, so see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Free your mind now. Be part of the People's Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.